Don't forget, you can catch me on YouTube. Go to Black Focus Radio, and it'll pop up today's live. So if for whatever reason, for some reason, Facebook has been up and down the last week or so, it could be that they're messing with my feed. You know, Facebook don't like black folks talking about racism. Okay? It's okay for everybody else to talk about black folks, but Facebook doesn't like black folks talking about racism. So you can go out to the YouTube feed, and I'm going to post that here in just a moment, so you all can get that feed as well today. All right? So 855-525-5683 is the number. Also, if you want to, good afternoon, Jack. Hey, Dwight, Billy, how's it going? If you'd like to send me an email, and by the way, if you go out to the YouTube feed, make sure you subscribe, okay? There's a method to my madness. I'm looking to try and get 1,000 subscribers. So when you go out to the YouTube feed, hit that little button that says subscribe, if you don't mind, okay? I would really, really appreciate it. Now, 855-525-5683 is the number. Let's see. All right, let's go ahead and do a black fact.
Dynamic black facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
All right, so we're going to jump into some black facts. You know, I went over a couple of things that I was going to do, and then I ran across one of my favorites. And I have to do him, okay? This guy was the first, let's see, I did 3 Black History reports. My first 2 were in the 2nd grade, and I was in, let's see, I was in Mrs. Corker's 2nd grade class, and we were at Mitchell Elementary on 24th and Battery. And the first 3 people that I did, well, I think I did 5 now that I think about it, because I did Daniel Hell Williams, I did Dr. Charles Drew, I did Harriet Tubman, I did Mary McLeod Bethune, don't know why I did her, but I did, and the other person was Benjamin Banneker. Okay? So today's black fact is about Benjamin Banneker. The history of America and a list of great inventors can never be complete without the mention of many black men, of which Benjamin Banneker is one. Benjamin Banneker, just like most of the early inventors in various fields of self-thought, he was a grandson of a white British woman who married a black slave and gave birth to a woman also married a black slave who gave birth to him. That was kind of weird for a moment there, okay. He received an early education at a non-racist Quaker school, but his exceptional and advanced knowledge in many fields came from his interest in reading just about anything he laid his hands on. He worked, and maybe that's why I liked Benjamin Banneker. Let me read that again. Because a lot of knowledge that I have and a lot of other people simply comes from reading. Let me read this again. He received his early education in a non-racist Quaker school, but his exceptional and advanced knowledge in many fields came from his interest in reading just about anything he could lay his hands on. Hello? He worked on his family's tobacco farm, and from the age of 15, he started to oversee the affairs of the entire farm. He would later invent and build an irrigation system which channeled water from a nearby spring and kept the farm flourishing even during drought. His irrigation system and the wheat that was grown on the farms that he designed went a long way in saving U.S. troops from starvation during the Revolutionary War with the British. He started to gain a reputation for his irrigation system, but it was nothing compared to the fame he got when he invented the clock, to the amazement of the whole world around beginning of 1750s. Out of curiosity and ingenuity, he borrowed a pocket watch from one of his influential friends. He was bent on understanding the principle upon which the pocket watch operated. He successfully took the watch apart, studied it, and then pieced it back together. He returned the watch to the owner and then went ahead to manufacture a fully and optimally functioning clock. All the components were made from wood with surprising accuracy, and it would tick for another 40 years. The success of the clock invention gave him great fame and attention. He started his own clock repair business. He was a multi-genius and went ahead to make other outstanding achievements. He read and developed his knowledge in mathematics and astronomy from books which he borrowed from a friend. Let me read that again. Benjamin Banneker read and developed his knowledge in mathematics and astronomy from books he borrowed from a friend. His study and knowledge made him predict a solar eclipse accurately in 1789. At the beginning of the 1790s, Benjamin Banneker became an author, publishing an annual Farmer's Almanac. He sent a copy of this almanac to the then Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson. Benjamin's ingenuity and abilities moved Thomas Jefferson to place him on the survey team that would lay the plans for the construction of Washington, D.C. It was a three-man team, but the lead architect, a Frenchman, L'Enfant, later quit the project and didn't leave any blueprints behind for Benjamin and the other teammate. But that did not stop Benjamin from completing the layout of Washington, D.C. He had an amazing out-of-the-world memory, so he put it to work. He remembered every bit and pattern of the design that was worked on and enhanced it to fully develop the plan and design Washington, D.C. as we know it today. He went on to become a revered and internationally known polymath, farmer, engineer, surveyor, city planner, astronomer, mathematician, inventor, author, and social critic. He later died on the 25th of October, 1806. But just as many black people who have bettered the world through inventions, Benjamin's achievements are somewhat swept under the rug by America and its white supremacist agenda. His contribution to modern science and technology should get him a position as one of America's most decorated icons, but he is not. Many black children do not know him and the feat he achieved while he was alive. Stories such as these are meant to teach black people worldwide that we are better than the picture painted of us. We are gods and inventors, and our minds should be focused on healing ourselves and the community. Stories such as this should make us understand that we are alone in this world, and we owe it to our unborn generation to reclaim our lost glory. This article was written by Liberty Writers Africa, and you can go out and check out their website. Now, Benjamin Banneker is probably my favorite hero. I've got a lot of them. But you heard all of the things that he did. And one of the things that I do when I do my black male teenage survival kit is I have a Black History segment. And one of the people that I highlight is Benjamin Banneker. I do that purposely because I want people to understand who Benjamin Banneker was and how he influenced this entire nation. The very city of Washington, D.C. is there because Benjamin Banneker, with his photogenic memory, put it together. A black man. Oh, the irony of that when there are very few black men who legislate in Washington, D.C. Your children should know this. I always ask these young brothers, how is it that you tell me you don't like science? You don't like astronomy? You don't like making things when it is in your DNA? You've been fooled to think that the only thing that you can do is run, jump, and rap. When in fact, history tells us that you are far more. That is why I tell people when you're talking to these young brothers, instead of walking up to them and saying, "What's up, my N-word?" and using that as a term of endearment, I don't know how you can use the N-word that was created in racism and hatred by white people to degrade you as a term of endearment, although you have tried to make that argument, which logically makes no sense. Instead of saying that, why don't you say, "What's up, my king? What's up, my prince? What's up, my queen?" Instead of calling her, "What's up, my bee?" why don't you call her, "What's up, my queen?" Why don't you call her, "What's up, my princess?" Words have meaning. What you answer to is what you are. So if we change the dynamics and simply start referring to ourselves as what we were prior to being kidnapped and stolen into slavery, think about the mindset that can change. You know, I talk about mindset all the time. It's easy for a young black brother to walk up and kill another young black brother over something that he thinks he owns, like a street, which he doesn't, because he doesn't see that young black brother as a man. He sees him just as another worthless, excuse the word, nigger. So it's easy for me to blow his brains out. But what if he saw him as a king? What if he saw him as a prince who will be a future king? And what if they saw each other as those two adjectives? Maybe if he understood that I'm killing a future king, he wouldn't be so quick to kill him. It's about a mindset. It's about changing how you view yourself. And if you answer to the N-word, then guess what? That's what you are. And it carries all of the negative connotations from its creators who were racist. Woo! That's some deep stuff right there. So you're not allowed to use that word in my presence. Even my friends, man, come on. Okay, we use another word. Think about it. What if you just try it today. Try it today. You know, because I know it works. So let me just say this. I met a brother who was homeless 2 days ago. He asked for some money. Before I gave him some money, I said, "What's up, my king?" He hadn't looked at me at first. But then when I said, "What's up, my king?" he looks up at me and said, "Brother, thank you for saying that to me. No one has ever referred to me as a king." I said, "You know what, brother? You are descendants of kings and queens. Believe it, as a man thinketh, so is he." I gave him the $2 and drove off. Did you hear what I just said? A homeless guy, for a brief moment, I could see in his eyes when I said, "What's up, my king?" I could see this young brother for a brief moment come back to us. So what would happen if we as a black community, instead of using the N-word as a euphemistic term of endearment, which it is not, started referring to our black men as kings? Because as so a man thinketh, so is he. If I begin to believe that I'm a king, and if everybody around me calls me a king, then I begin to act like a king. You're right, Joseph. Words have power. You see, because as Dr. Welsing has said, we have to have a total mindectomy. That means we have to take the mind that we have right now, take it out and replace it with a conscious mind, a black conscious mind. Now, we cannot do it physically, but we can do it mentally. And it begins with how you address yourself and how you allow yourself to be addressed. Hello? So if you simply began to refer to your brothers and sisters as kings and queens, and young brothers and sisters as princes and princesses, think about that. Think about that's the beginning of that mindectomy, where you're changing the narrative. You don't change the narrative by taking an evil word that they created to degrade you. And just because you remove the ER and add an A, that makes it okay. It's a derivative. What is the root word? Hello, my brothers and sisters. The root still remains. Hello? Come on, come with me today. It's book list Friday. I love doing my book list. But we still in Black Facts right now. And I just went off because, I'm sorry, I don't mean to nerd out on you about facts. But Benjamin Banneker says it all to me. And it made me remember my encounter with that homeless guy 2 days ago. And I could see at least a brief moment of hope in his eyes when I said, "What's up, my king?" Here I was, a brother dressed nice, in a nice car, nice and shiny, pulling up to a stop sign, opening the window, handing out $2, and I just said, "What's up, my king?" For a brief moment, I could see in that young brother's eyes hope. I may never see him again. I probably won't. And I rarely give away money. I will usually buy a sandwich. But that day I just, for some reason, gave him $2. But I think I gave him a lot more by calling him a king. Think about that. Words have power. You don't have to go to school to understand this. Benjamin Banneker is a classic example. Is that if you noticed, there was nothing in that autobiography that I read about Benjamin Banneker that said he attended XYZ school, that he got a summa cum laude from XYZ University. Benjamin Banneker was a self-taught black man who simply picked up a book and read it. I say all the time, and you've heard the phraseology, that the best way to hide something from black people is to put it in a book. Because we ain't gonna read. And we're not gonna teach our children to read. And then we began to wonder, why? We began to wonder why. I'm just being real with you here. Turn off the PlayStation 2, 3, or 4, or whatever they're up to now, PlayStation 10. Check this out. I got a PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4 in my home right now that hasn't been turned on in 3 years. You want to save our children? Then you got to put their noses in a book. They ought to be reading from the time they come out of the womb. And you say, well, wait a minute, my infant can't read, but you can read to your infant. Once that child is born, you ought to create some flashcards. If you don't create the flashcards, then simply go buy some flashcards with words and numbers and algebraic phrases on those cards and show them to that child. Brothers and sisters, it works. You know why it works? Because at birth, a child's brain is clear. It simply wants to absorb. And even though that child may not be able to understand what the Pythagorean theorem is, when that child sees it, it imprints on that Pythagorean theorem. You follow me? So when it pops back up again, the familiarity will be there. Kings, queens. Our young adult men should be kings. Our young adult women should be queens. Our elders should be, our older generation should be respected elders. Our young people should be princes and princesses. Ashe, ashe, ashe. And those of you who don't know what I'm saying, ashe is simply saying amen, which is where it came from. Hello, we teaching today. Benjamin Banneker. Woo, that was a heck of a black fact right there, baby. Woo, let's close it up.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic black facts, our culture, our history, our people on JoyNetRadio.com.
Hey friends, Father's Day is right around the corner, and Coleman's Dynamic Products is offering a dynamic gift just for Dad. Pick 6 for Dad. Any 6 items in my product line. Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, Dust, Juice, Nuts, Batter, and you name it, all for only $29.95 plus shipping and handling. Upgrade to Pick 10 for only $39.95. Pick 6 for Dad. You must call 615-554-0568 to get this dynamic Father's Day special. Dad and you will be glad you did. Each purchase receives a Coleman's Dynamic downloadable cookbook. We want to say Happy Father's Day for all the great fathers out there. And while you enjoy your day, don't forget to bake it, grill it, smoke it, oh yeah, with Coleman's Dynamic product. Pick 6 or pick 10. You must call 615-554-0568 to get this dynamic Father's Day special.
All right, don't forget the Father's Day special. You can only get it by calling me, 615-554-0568. You get 6 or 10 items. 6 items for $29.95 and 10 items for $39.95. Really, the better deal is the 10 items. I'm going to be honest with you. It comes in a beautiful red box that will be shipped anywhere in the country to your dad. And it has any items that you choose. Rib rub, I have 3 different flavors. Rib nuts, 3 different flavors. You have rib dust, which is a seasoning salt. You have rib batter, which is great for frying catfish or whatever fish you need. Let's see what else. I have even a rib mix, which is a party mix. And man, I can't forget about the rib juice. Okay. Which is my dipping sauce that you can grill with it. So you can choose any of those items in any combination, 6 or 10, for a limited time. It is just for Father's Day. Call me up at 615-554-0568. I'm telling you, the rib nuts is going to boggle your mind. Who in the heck came up with barbecue peanuts? This crazy guy right here. All right. 855-525-5683 is the number. I apologize. My voice is still cracking. Hopefully in the next day or so, I'll be done with this crook or whatever it is. My sinuses have been going crazy. It's probably the pollen and the ragweed and all of that crazy other stuff. But we got a lot more to talk about. And also remember, if you want to call me up, I want to read what Rhoda said. By the way, Rhoda, where are you now? She says, hidden history of minorities to uplift others. No kings or queens allowed in America, especially those of color, brown Africans, no recognition. That's my point. They're not going to tell you about your history. Come on, man. If they tell you about your history, then guess what? Then that means that their history is a lie. You all get that, right? If they tell you about your history, if they teach you about your history, that means their history is a lie. Well, you know it is. I don't mean to be flippant, but it is. Don't get mad at me. We're just speaking fact. You know, we talked about the picture the other day of the early statues in Egypt prior to their noses being blown off. You ever notice that, right? You do notice. We brought this up the other day. We brought this up the other day. Y'all remember, right? That all of the African statues had their noses blown off. Did you ever ask the question why? Have you ever went back and looked at some of the pictures and asked why? Why is the Sphinx nose missing? Did it just simply fall off because it had rhinoplasty? Hell no, it didn't. They were mad. Y'all get that, right? 855-525-5683 is the number. Let's see what else. Oh, by the way, I just posted the link for YouTube. Well, I haven't posted it yet. But those of you who want to look at it, look at the YouTube feed, you can. And I hope you all will go out and subscribe to my YouTube feed. Just go out there and hit subscribe, okay? You can watch either one, but just hit subscribe to either one. All right? I'd really appreciate it. All right, so what else do we have on the agenda today? What they got, like 24 Democrats running for president now? All righty then. That ain't working for me. I'm just saying. Some of y'all need to go home. You know, I don't know why some of y'all just couldn't have ran for Congress or a Senate seat. I mean, some of you all would do well with a Senate seat or Congress, but you want to run for president. Okay, whatever. Here's the tease for today. Spring is sprung and the racism is in full bloom. The stench is mind-numbing. I dropped some economic reality facts on you today, and to prove the black community has no time to be carrying other groups' water. The new abortion law sparking some unintended conversations between men and women. Those conversations are long overdue. And of course, it's Book Review Friday. I review a few books that launched me on my road to enlightenment. The journey is long, yet I have miles to go before I sleep. As I borrow a quatrain from Walking by Woods on Snowy Evening by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Yeah, I'm a cultured soul brother too. By the way, one of my favorites, if I may say so myself. if I may say so myself. Yes, I've read Robert Frost and Robert Browning and all of them. 855-525-5683. So where do we want to start? Let's see here. Let me scroll down because I will talk a little bit about this abortion thing. I'm gonna wade back into that, and had an interesting conversation with a former brother-in-law. He doesn't get it. He will once she takes his children. So let's talk about the first part of that. Spring is sprung and racism is in full bloom. Let me give you an example, because I think some of you all, when you listen to this show, and there are other shows out there in the biosphere like this one, who is just having plain talk. Plain talk sometimes, it doesn't like, or a lot of people don't like it, because when you have plain talk, you deal with facts, and people don't want you to present facts to them. But when I say racism is in full bloom, let me give you an example. Let me just read the title of this article. It's by Ted Hansen from Politico.com. Trump's pick for ICE director. I can tell which immigrant children will become gang members by looking into their eyes. That was Mike Morgan, the White House choice to lead ICE. He said that on Fox News. Remember yesterday I told you about Elizabeth Warren, who refused to go on Fox News because she basically said that they do nothing but make money off of hate. Here's a classic example of that. Just a day later, I'm proving my point again with facts. Okay? Trump's new pick for the ICE director, he says, I've been to detention facilities where I've walked up to those individuals that are so-called minors under 17. I've looked at them and I've looked at their eyes, Tucker, and I've said, that is soon to be a MS-13 gang member. It's unequivocal. Wow. This guy is a public official, or soon to be a public official, that is going to be over ICE. Y'all still don't think there's a problem here going on? Y'all still don't think there's an attempt any way they can to purge people of color from America? This is not a game, folks. While y'all are praying and playing, they are plotting and planning. Hello? Now, this was on an interview, but I don't know if he's going to go into a Senate confirmation hearing. But what I would like for one of these Senate or House of Representatives to ask this racist is that, has he ever walked up to a white kid and could see that he was going to be a school shooter or a movie theater shooter or a picnic shooter? If he can see that a young Hispanic male is going to automatically join MS-13, certainly with that clairvoyance that God has blessed this white man to have, certainly he ought to be able to look into the eyes of a young white terrorist and know that he's going to go and shoot up a Waffle House, or he's going to go and shoot up Mother Manual. Surely he can do that, right? Because those skills are few and far between. In fact, to my knowledge, in the history of law enforcement, I don't know of any individual who has ever been able to go and look into a person's eyes and determine that they're going to be a gang member, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or a mass murderer, or a basketball player, or a football player. But Mark Morgan, the choice by Donald Trump, says that he can look into the eyes of a Hispanic male and know that he's going to be a gang member. Now you all understand about the bloom of racism, the stench of it. It's everywhere. It clogs my nostrils. It destroys my sensibilities. It makes no sense whatsoever. It is illogical. That story that I read about Benjamin Banneker proves just how illogical racism really is. Because if you remember the story, it was Thomas Jefferson who by now was raping Sally Hemings, who appointed Benjamin Banneker to be on this survey committee with two other white men. One was from France, L'Enfant. So you understand how illogical that is, that here is Thomas Jefferson, who owned slaves, who I'm sure wasn't just raping Sally Hemings, had raped his share of slaves, but he took a liking to Sally Hemings and raped her repeatedly, decided that Benjamin Banneker, a black male, had knowledge beyond measure and put him on the survey commission to build Washington, D.C. You see all these ironies in this, man? This is kind of crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy. That's the racism that I was talking about in the tease. And what I'm trying to do more of is I write these teasers. Usually I try to get them up before an hour, 30 minutes before the show. And sometimes I get into things and I miss out on things that I want to talk about. So I'm trying to follow them more closely these days. Okay? It's called Radio 101. All right, so what else do we want to talk about today? Speaking of racism, in Maine, the governor has signed legislation to ban all mascots that represent Native Americans, like the word Indian or Redskin. She has signed that into being. Now you might say, well, why is that a big deal? Would you like to see the San Francisco niggers? So why is it okay to see the Washington Redskins or the Cleveland Indians or ABC High School Warriors? We have one of those here. In fact, Hall Warriors. I don't care if it's about nobility. You don't have the right to appropriate the Native American culture. And I applaud them doing this. Remember Bomani Jones? You all may not know Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones is a talk show host, a sports talk show host for ESPN. He currently does a show called High Noon. I think it comes on at 3 p.m. every day, but it's called High Noon. Look at the irony in that. Bomani Jones is an excellent writer, and he's an excellent sports talk show host. I've been following Bomani for quite some time. Now, one of the things that Bomani did was to prove a point. Bomani had a shirt that had the logo of the Redskins, the logo of the Washington football team, and the picture of a white man cartooned inside the logo. And it said the Washington Caucasians. He said he got all kinds of hate. People coming up to him saying it's wrong for him to be wearing that shirt. But what Bomani was doing was a live experiment about the bigotry and the racism that pervades America. They didn't get it. White people were upset with Bomani Jones because he dared to wear a shirt that said the Washington Caucasians. And it had a caricature of a white man inside the logo. They were upset with Bomani. He got all kinds of hate mail. They were trying to get Bomani Jones fired for him wearing that shirt. And Bomani was doing a live experiment with white people. It was okay for them to worship the Washington Redskins, to wear their logo, to proudly say they are Redskins fans. But when one black man developed a shirt that said the Washington Caucasians, white people got upset. So I applaud this governor in Maine. Her name is Janet Mills. I applaud her for simply saying no more. And it should be across the country, is that public schools should not be appropriating Indian culture, Native American culture. In fact, I apologize for using the word Indian because that is a name that white people gave Native Americans. Hello. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. I've got more today. Okay. So by the way, the guy who's supposed to be investigating Glenn Casada in Tennessee for all of its bigotry and racism, here's what he just recently said. Their belief system is evil, as he refers to Islam. Boy, I could say the Christian belief system is evil based on what you're doing, but I'll leave that for you all to try to interpret that. By the way, Cecil Rhodes killed millions of African Americans. So when you hear the word Rhodes Scholar, that's who it's named after. Cecil Rhodes, a racist and a murderer. I'm just dropping some knowledge for you today. We're headed towards the top of the hour. By the way, police officer who pulled the gun on a black man for picking up his own trash, he's quit the force. He needs to. Goodbye and good riddance. Racism, folks, it's here. It's everywhere. Here's a lab tech who falsified drug test. Is she going to do any time? This is by Michael Harriet from The Root. Investigators are scrambling to determine how many parents have lost jobs, custody of their children, and more after the owner of an Alabama laboratory was arrested for altering the results of drug and paternity test. Hello? Let me read that again. Investigators are scrambling to determine how many parents may have lost jobs, custody of their children, and more after the owner of an Alabama laboratory was arrested for altering the results of drug and paternity tests. So what you're saying is that there are potentially fathers out there who are paying child support for a child that isn't theirs, thanks to what's going on in Alabama. Well, whoop-dee-doo. What do you expect from Alabama? Duh. AL.com reports that Ozark, Alabama police officers charged 36-year-old Brandy Murrah with 2 counts of forgery after authorities received evidence that someone had forged the results of 2 drug tests performed at A&J Lab Collections, which is owned by Mura. Now authorities say that the 2 cases just might be the tip of the iceberg, alleging that multiple drug screenings may have been changed by Mura, who, despite all appearances to the contrary, I cannot stress enough, is only 36 years old. Authorities said, we have no idea how many people did not get their children back because of Ms. Mura's alleged fraudulent reports. Mura had a contract with Dale County's Department of Human Services Dependent Court to perform drugs and paternity tests on individuals involved in custody cases, but was not involved in criminal cases. The lab company was paid by the individual or reimbursed by DHR. In my opinion, all cases by Mura's alleged actions must be redone to be fair. Oh my gosh. Somebody's about to be sued, and it's going to be some hurt feelings. 855-525. Could you imagine? I can't. How many cases did this woman falsify? How many? I would be curious to see what the racial breakdown is of that. I'm going to look, see if there is. I don't know if they can find out, but I'd be curious to see. How many were black that she falsified those, and how many were white? And then the other question would be, those drug tests are supposed to be blind, are they not? You don't determine race on those tests, so how would she know? I agree, LaTanya. They only charged her with 2 counts. She needs more than 2 counts. Every test that she falsified, that ought to be a count. And then she needs to pay back all the money that she was paid, because a DNA test will hit about $300 to $500 per person. That was a private company. So she was making money off of causing people's misery. Hello? I would be curious to know how many were black and how many were white, and how does she know they were black? And if in fact the majority of the people that she caused pain, that she falsified those tests, then she ought to be charged with a hate crime. But you know what? Not in Alabama. Not in Alabama. Because Alabama is a walking hate crime itself. Hello. That's where there's no way on God's green earth I'd be sending my child to play for Alabama. There's no way. Or Auburn. Or Mississippi. Or Mississippi State. Or Arkansas. Or Missouri. Need I go on? Or Florida. Florida State. The only place I'd be sending them are to HBCUs. That's just me. Do what you want to do. That's a good question, Rhoda. We don't know. There are no details on how many tests she falsified. This is shocking. This is shocking, because what's going to happen here is someone has been paying for a child that isn't his, or some mother has been raising a child that isn't hers. Now, this is ugly. This ain't pretty at all. 855-525. Man, I'd be fighting somebody. One other note before we go to the top of the hour. Remember the sister who dialed 911 for help because she was being harassed by some white guy and she ended up getting beat up by the police? Remember that? Well, that particular officer has been charged for forcefully arresting a woman and then allegedly making false statements about what happened in an incident that sparked outrage after the video went viral. Here's why I tell you all that I don't care what you're doing. If it's two of you and one of you are being harassed by the police, it is incumbent upon you to make sure that you are videotaping it. As a matter of fact, you need to have your camera out and ready to videotape. If you are being pulled over by the police, if it takes you time to drive to a safe area, make sure that you are videotaping the police. Police body cam footage and a cell phone video recorded by the woman's friend showed the officer, Alejandro Guerrero, pushing Daima Loving against a fence before grabbing her by the neck and pulling her to the ground. Guerrero had been responding to a 911 call made by Loving's friend, Adriana Green, to report that a neighbor had threatened them with a shotgun. An internal police investigation later found there was no basis to arrest Loving. Geraldo was arrested Thursday and charged with official misconduct, a felony for allegedly making false statements in official reports. He was also charged with battery. After taking the sworn statements and reviewing all of the known video evidence, we believe that there is sufficient evidence to charge a violation of Florida's criminal statutes. There you go. Good for her. Now, I don't want to see you arrested. I want to see you convicted. And I don't want you to be able to get on any other police force. And again, if you remember his name, Alejandro Guerrero. Alejandro Guerrero suggests to me that he is the child of an immigrant. The fact that he was hired as a police officer suggests that he is standing on the shoulders of black people who fought for liberation and freedom of all people of color. Yet here is a person of color abusing a black woman. Next hour, I'm going to talk about those economics and why black people need to stop carrying water for other people. We got too much work to do in our community. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. The first hour is down, but there is another dynamic hour to come. If you are looking at the Facebook feed, make sure you subscribe. If you are not looking at the Facebook feed, I need you to subscribe. We're trying to get us 1,000 subscribers, and we're on the way. We've got 3. Take the top of the hour break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio on joinnetradio.com.
Feel your home for the holidays with Bedrock Mattress and More. Bundle and save for every room in your home. Package deals just in time for the holidays. Our first bundle starting at $598. Perfect for a dorm room. Bundle deal 2, only $15.99.
Thanks, Marquez.
To fill your first apartment and fill your home with our third bundle starting at only $24.99. Come get these deals while they last. Special pricing going on now through the end of the year. Celebrate this holiday season with something new from Bedrock Mattress and More. 3901 South University in Little Rock.
Check out our new arrivals at Buckle Furniture Depot. Sofas, sectional, bedroom sets, hot sets, as well as home appliances now.
You get finance! You get finance! Everyone gets a finance!
No credit check plan with 99 savings cash. Make Buckle Furniture Depot your one-stop shop on 562-8333 for the rest.
Who done it? What nerd done it? Buckle Furniture Depot.
Hi, I'm attorney Theodore Thompson from the Thompson Law Firm, and I want to help with your legal matters. Whether it's criminal defense, bankruptcy, personal injury, or family law, I want to help you. I can be reached at 501-503-5095. Don't face your legal issues alone. You need an attorney whose primary objective is to provide you with the best legal representation. Our office address is 415 North McKinley, Suite 710 in Little Rock. I'm attorney Theodore Thompson, and I want to provide you with the best legal representation.
I'm so glad I found a Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removed the guesswork and intimidation and offered me a very supportive and structured environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Leverett and her certified personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines for my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above, I look marvelous.
Mitchell's
Hey
Funeral Home
friends, Father's Day is
welcomes all
right around the corner, and Coleman's Dynamic Products is offering a dynamic gift just for Dad. Pick 6 for Dad. Any 6 items in my product line. Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub, Dust, Juice, Nuts, Batter, you name it, all for only $29.95 plus shipping and handling. Upgrade to Pick 10 for only $39.95. Pick 6 for Dad. You must call 615-554-0568 to get this dynamic Father's Day special. Dad and you will be glad you did. Each purchase receives a Coleman's Dynamic downloadable cookbook. We want to say Happy Father's Day for all the great fathers out there. And while you enjoy your day, don't forget to bake it, grill it, smoke it, oh yeah, with Coleman's Dynamic product. Pick 6 or pick 10. You must call 615-554-0568 to get this dynamic Father's Day special.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers.
No, Sylvester, I think that's a different cop.
Focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus.
This is the one where she had called the police and he basically beat her up. She's not dead.
Solutions using our voices. Central Arkansas, the surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Black Focus Radio. In this hour, we are going to have some more items from our book list. I think you'll enjoy it. Very nice book list, by the way. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. By the way, Sylvester, I think you've got, I know it's so many of these cases. This young lady she's not dead, so this guy hasn't been sentenced for murder. He just basically put her in a headlock. And he's been fired as it relates to what I was talking about earlier. Now, this hour, I quickly want to talk about why I don't carry water for other ethnic groups, other newfangled alphabet groups. You know, just as I tell people that humanity are our children, because humanity was birthed through black people, I have to tell you that we as black people have been suffering from that birth of humanity because humanity grew up and began to hate us, unfortunately. So that humanity, which is derivatives of us, whether they are light-skinned, as y'all call them, Hispanic, Mexican, LGBTQ, or whatever the case may be, we've carried them enough. The world that they live in right now was built on the backs of free labor, that free labor being black people. We've carried them enough. Here in America, it was black people who fought and died so that black people could be free, so that Hispanic people could be free, so that every other ethnic group who lives in this country and is able to live with some modicum of comfort that they cannot be discriminated against is because of black people. It's not hyperbole. If you know history, you know I'm telling the truth. So it bothers me to no end when people of descendants, Hispanics, Asians, Arabs, you name it, have the unmitigated gall to discriminate against black people and in fact, they carry an innate hate for black people. And although you know I talk a lot about reparations, here's an example of why reparations are needed, and the example will double up on why black people don't have time to be carrying the water of other ethnic groups. That includes LBGTQ. No offense. You were black before you were gay. You were black before you were lesbian. You were black before you were transgender. You were black before you decided not to name what sex you are. The fact of the matter is that your DNA of blackness was there before anything else. So let me give you some numbers here to back up my points. Today, in 2019, from the Institute of Policy Studies, so you can go out and read for yourself, the median income wealth today of white families, Latino families, and black families. Check this out. It's pathetic. The median income for a white family is $147,000. Let me say that again. The median income of a white family is $147,000. The median income of a Latino family is $6,600. Let me say that again. The median income for a Latino family is $6,606. Now, if the Latino family is that bad, how bad is America? How bad is black America? Well, let me just say this. The median income of a black family is $3,600. I'll encapsulate it like this. For a white family or a Latino family to equal up to a white family, that's 22 times their median income. Y'all get that, right? I don't mean to bore you with numbers, but sometimes numbers are the only thing that makes sense. For a black family, that 3,600, that's almost 41 times more for a white family than there is for a black family. Number one, that's why we demand reparations, because part of that is, for white families, is that's inheritance. That's inheritance of white privilege. That's inheritance of family monies that came down from great grandpa that was earned on the backs of free black labor. You hear me? At the turn of the century, when slaves were emancipated in 1865, at the turn of the century, Black people own 1.2% of the total economy. In 2019, today, black people own 1.2% of the total economy. Hello? That's racism, folks. Part of it is our problem, but part of it is a system that is systematically trying to disenfranchise black people every chance they got. You see stories now of black farmers and black preachers and black teachers who owned land, whose land was stolen from them by the KKK, the terrorist organization named the KKK, by cities, by townspeople. Those stories are everywhere. So the black wealth that was being developed was basically snuffed out by racist policies of America and continue to do so today. So when I say I don't have time to be carrying water for the LGBTQ community or the Hispanic community or the Arab community or the Sikh community or any other community, that number, $3,600, an annual median income for black families, is all I need to know. I don't feel sorry one bit. Because they are living off of our backs, off of our labor, and when we need them to come and support us, they are absent without leave. They don't show up. They are not there. All of the gains, you know, it's funny, when I go to a hotel now, most of the hotels are owned by Indians. That wouldn't be 30, 40 years ago if it weren't for black people. A lot of the gas stations are owned by Arabs. That would not be if it wasn't for black people 30 or 40 years ago when they decided to march. When you look at those pictures, you don't see many Hispanics, do you? When you look at those pictures of the water hoses being turned on those children or the dogs being sicked on those children, you don't see many Arabs. You don't see many Asians. Come on, talk to me. You see black bodies rolling down the street from the pressure of a water hose. You see black bodies turning to defend themselves when a dog, baring its teeth, sinks them into its soft tissue. So tell me again why I gotta carry water for every other group but my own. I'm tired. My back hurts. It's not happening anymore. Call me selfish. Or just call me a man, a black man who loves his people. Who understands that if his people is going to get out of the muck and the mire that they've been buried under through racism and bigotry, then it is us who must first extend our hands to those who have already escaped, and they simply pull. No, I'm not carrying that water anymore. No, I'm not going to a multicultural event to talk about bigotry and racism and black people's issues get drowned out by every other group but ours, when ours is the basis of all of the racism. You know, if you stop what's going on at the base, because, you know, that's why, you know, when they build a building, you know, a foundation is important. If you build it on a sorry base, that building is going to tumble. So the base is black people. Everything else has been built on black people. And if you don't address the issue of black people, then there are no issues. 855-525-5683. The average median income for a white family in America, $147,000. For a Latino family, it's $6,600. For a black family, it's $3,600. By the way, black people have been in America longer than Latinos as a collective group, yet it is black people who bring up the rear. That's 40.8 times that of white families. Hello? That's almost 1.5 times that of Latino families. Sorry, my back is hurting. My shoulder's hurting. I can't carry nobody else. I'm carrying black folks as it is. You're carrying black folks as it is. We carry them every day. I can no longer carry other ethnic groups. 855-525-5683 is the number. All right, so we're going to save a little time later on for the book list, so we want to make sure we cover this. Since I covered it in depth yesterday, I want to cover it a little bit more today because I'm appreciative of all the comments that I've gotten as it relates to this conversation. And I'm also appreciative of the dialogue because I think we have to have dialogue. And sometimes there are things that happen in the biosphere that have unintended consequences, whether they be positive or negative. And I think what is going on in Alabama and across this country as it relates to abortion is sparking what I hope is some healthy debate. I've gotten a lot of comments about this, so I want to touch on it and I want to clarify once again my stance. Because see, my stance is not even about Alabama's law. My stance is about a father and a mother. Two people who conceive a child. And my ex-brother-in-law thinks that a man doesn't have a right to tell a woman what to do with her body. Now, you know, I made the argument, the physiology argument yesterday. I don't think I really need to do that again, do I? So basically, his logic is that men are being punished because of their physiology. It's your fault you don't have a womb. It's your fault that the Creator decided that it would be female to bear children. That's his logic. I understand his logic. I understand that if, in fact, we go with the tradition of thought, then it keeps us from really thinking logically. And that's what many of you all are doing. To me, there's only one answer. Not that I'm trying to prove that I'm right. But I've been saying this now. I began fighting for custody in 1997. I've been fighting this battle for a long time. It's been over 20 years. Finally, it's over for me personally, but I still help men fight for custody. And my number one argument has been is that you simply punish men simply because they have no womb. You discriminate against men because they have no womb. Now, what do I mean? You argue, many of you, men and women, argue that because a mother has to carry a baby for 9 months, it is her sole responsibility. I disagree with you. Because one thing that God did bless me with, he didn't give me a womb, but he gave me sperm. He gave me the power to impregnate. He gave that to me. He didn't give it to the woman. He gave that to me. The mighty creator in all of his wisdom understood that we need two people, two individuals, male and female, to procreate. And that is consistent across nature. Even with plants, there needs to be a male and female in order to procreate a plant, a tree, an apple. In their infinite wisdom, whether you call him God, Allah, the Creator, Buddha, it doesn't matter. Whoever put this thing together, we call life, understood that it was important to have a male and a female to procreate. It is not the man's fault that he doesn't have a womb, just like it is not the woman's fault that she doesn't have a penis. But for decades, for centuries in America and throughout the world, men punished women because of that very fact that she did not have male genitalia. And because of that, she was weak. She was not able to sustain hard work. This went on for decades. In fact, it went on for centuries. Didn't it? Yeah, it did. You can say amen where you are, because no one will know you're agreeing with me right now, ladies. No one will know you're agreeing with me, men who still have Neanderthalic ideas of what a woman is or what she should be. The only difference between men and women in most cases are physical stature. Intelligence, there is no difference. You put a female and a male in the same room and teach them the same thing, they both will come out highly intelligent. Just like they tried to make the argument that black people were inferior intelligently. But then remember the black fact, Benjamin Banneker, no schooling, who proved beyond a shadow of a doubt the depth of his intelligence. That's the only difference. And therein lies the point in what I'm trying to make here. Is that because men had a larger physical presence, bigger, stronger, faster, in most cases, I would argue 95% of the cases, because of the way they were made, their physiology, based on what the Creator decided male to be, that man somehow in his infinite wisdom decided that women were weak and they couldn't do certain things. But today we know that's not true. Right? We can no longer punish women because of their lack of physical stature. Now, a young lady yesterday on the post said that she knows some women that can beat up men. That's an anomaly. Doesn't happen on a regular basis. If I take the average 18-year-old male and the average 18-year-old female, they both train just because of his power, his physiology. He should be able to beat that woman. And I would bet on him most times. That's just the way nature is. I've proven that point as I've used track and field as the fact that when you look at the same events versus male and female, the male usually is faster and stronger. Go out and look at the IAAF track and field results. The male in those events, whether it's the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 400 meters, the 800 meters, the 1500 meters, the discus, the javelin, the shot put, the pole vault, you name it, men are stronger than women because of their physiology. Hello. And for decades, for centuries, men punished women for that fact. In fact, remember, they used to then let women even compete in track and field and other athletic events because she was so dainty. We know today that was wrong. So with that being said, how can women make the argument that because their physiology is different, they have the right to raise a child? How can they make the argument because they are the vessel by which that child is brought in this earth, that they have the right to determine if it lives or dies, when in fact it is because of a male that child is even existing? So you're saying to me that because it takes men and women to copulate, to procreate, that once the procreation is complete, then the man has no say-so? I humbly disagree. And that's why I am against abortion. It's logical and it makes sense. If you as a man decides that you don't want to raise your children, that's your business. If you as a man decides that you are not capable of being fatherly to your children and it takes the mother, that's your business. But you know that's not all men, right? And as a male, I should not be penalized because I don't have a womb. To show you how ridiculous some of this is getting, and I know women are upset about this abortion issue. Hopefully one of the things it'll do is help you make better choices about who you sleep with. Because it annoys me to no end when I hear mothers say a father is a deadbeat. Well, wait a minute. What does that make you? Because you slept with him. Did you not know he was a deadbeat? If you slept with a deadbeat, that old saying, if you lay down with fleas, what is going to happen to you? Hello? I know this is an uncomfortable conversation because, see, this is making you think. This makes you think outside. Remember, I don't think outside the box because I'm not in a box. I'm already outside enjoying the vast world. So I'm asking you to come with me outside and enjoy the vast world of thought today. If in fact, we believe that men cannot raise children, then why don't we just send them all to sperm banks and just erase the men? Why don't we do that? I heard something the other day that some woman wanted to pass some legislation that said that if men masturbate, then they're killing a child. Men ought to be brought up on charges. That's ridiculous. Think about it from this. They're suggesting that every one of those sperm are a child, when in fact we know science that only one sperm can penetrate one egg. So all of the others die anyway. So should the mother be brought up on charges? Let me go a little further. Every 30 days, a mother has a menstrual cycle that is of childbearing age, right? What that is the making of an egg. and the flushing of her system. So if that mother every 30 days is not impregnated, that egg that she made on that 30th day is flushed out of her system to make another one. Should she go to jail because of her menstrual cycle? Y'all with me? Yeah, I know this is some deep stuff, Dave. But on Black Focus Radio, we try to make you think. We have to become critical thinkers. We cannot be jumping on emotional bandwagons just because it makes us feel good with no facts to back them up. That's what has gotten us in the predicament that we're in today. We are an emotional people, and thus we do things that are irrational. So what I'm simply saying to you is that if you follow that logic that a lot of women are proposing these days, then you will understand that it has no logic. It's clearly anger at black men, anger at men, period. For men being men. So no, I am not pro-life. I'm not pro-choice. I'm anti-abortion until men have rights to their children. Because if I conceive that child, then I have rights to that child. Even in the womb. Because that child is in that womb because of me. And if you don't agree with that, stop saying men need to be paying child support when women are pregnant. Hello? Don't get mad at men when you have the baby, all he does is pay child support. He doesn't see the child. Don't get mad at him. You just said that men have no rights to the children except to pay. Don't come with some moral argument that, hey, he's daddy, he ought to take care of his children. Now, that's what it should be. But it can't be if you only think that he's daddy when it's convenient for you. They do, LaTanya. They do that anyway, and they do it because society has allowed them to do it. Society has reinforced this attitude that men doesn't have any responsibilities. I reject that notion. Always have, and always will. I'm just trying to get you to think. I'm just trying to get you to think outside. Y'all know that's my favorite saying. Because at the end of the day, we ought to be taking care of our children, men and women. And if he's good enough to lay down with you, then he's good enough to take care of those children. He's good enough to raise those children. Long as he's not abusing you or beating you or abusing the children, then even though you all may grow apart, even though that his values may be Muslim and yours might be Christian, he still have a right to impart his values on his children. You don't have the right to determine no. And nor do you have the right, or should you have the right, to end a pregnancy without the consent of the father. Because after all, you're pregnant because of him and you. It's a 50-50 proposition. You supplied the egg. He supplied the sperm. And you became pregnant. Without his sperm, there is no pregnancy. There is no little Johnny. There is no little Sally Mae. So yeah, I'm consistent on that until parents, if there's going to be a termination of pregnancies, then mama and daddy. Not grandmama, not Sister Sarah, not the beautician, not your hairdresser, not your nail tech, not your girlfriend, not your BFF, but mother and father. They were the only two that were there when that child was conceived. Now, I know some of y'all do all these wild fangled things. Maybe some other people were in the room, but there were only two people that participated in the act. And those are the only two people, in my opinion, that should have the legal right to determine whether or not that child is born or buried. I don't think so, LaTanya. I think people would, LaTanya says, if women got to get permission to abort a baby, the abortion rate would skyrocket. I don't agree with that. Here's why. Because I think women and men would be much more responsible when it comes to sex. Those one night, how many kids were conceived through one night stances? A whole lot of them. Okay? So I think if that's the case, and I say this all the time, if women understood that they would potentially lose custody of children and end up having to pay child support, illegitimacy rates would fall precipitously. I truly believe that. Because many women go ahead and have these babies because they know, hey, he gonna pay child support. We just having a real conversation. They go ahead and have these babies because, hey, he gonna, and then, unfortunately, some men don't. But I'm just saying, if we really want to solve this problem of abortion where it becomes moot, start giving fathers rights to those children. You know what'll happen? Women will stop getting pregnant and illegitimate births will drop. Hello? It's called reverse psychology. Hello? 855-525-5683. I'd love to hear your comments about that. I wanted to just expound on it a little bit more because, I love my ex-brother-in-law. He's a good young man. He has a family. It makes me wonder. And I see pictures of him on Facebook with his new family. I just wonder what would happen if his wife would have aborted those 3 children. I wonder how he would feel. I agree, Rhoda. I'm not talking about abusive fathers. By the way, there are abusive mothers too. I agree. Anyone that is abusive, mother or father, should not have access to the children. That's a moot point there. That's a point that's not even necessary. But I just wonder if my ex-brother-in-law would see this differently if, in fact, his wife would have decided to abort the children. I wonder if he would have, how innocently would he have stood by if she would have said, I'm going to abort this baby. I don't know how helpless you could get. I've been there. I've had it happen to me. The most helpless feeling I've ever had in my life. I'm being real. Yeah, you might have a point there, Rob. LaTanya said these poor folks are not going to. You know what? I'll tell you this in a moment. LaTanya says these folks are not going to stop messing around. If that was the case, we wouldn't have so much AIDS. That's an excellent point. I'll give you one on that. But some would argue that AIDS is worse than child support. Or child support is worse than AIDS. At least it used to be. At some point, They used to say that at least you're going to die from AIDS. Child support is sometimes in perpetuity. You like that, huh? I'm just being real, okay? But I wanted to come back and talk about that, and I hope these conversations continue, because they need to continue. If women are going to argue that they are equal to men, then they certainly have to acknowledge that men are equal to them. And that includes when it comes to raising children. That includes when it comes to determining whether a pregnancy will be brought to term. That's kind of how it rolls, if you're going to be consistent. Now, some would say women are consistent and a double standard. Some would say, I'm not saying that. But it makes you wonder sometimes, doesn't it? 855-525-5683 is the number. All right, so for the rest of the show, we want to talk a little bit about my book list. Let me give you an update on some of the books that we've covered so far. The United States Constitution. Of course, I told you why you need to read the Constitution. You wouldn't be so shocked at some of the things that are going on in America today if you knew what the rules were. The Holy Bible, the original African Heritage Edition. Notice I specifically said the original African Heritage Edition, not the White Bible. Now, this is written under the King James moniker, but the difference in this Bible and other Bibles is that it identifies the people of color in the Bible. You will be stunned. This for you Christian folk. The Holy Quran. If you seriously want to understand your history, your culture, then you must study the religions of antiquity, and the Holy Quran, Islam, is one of those. There were two major religions, Christianity and Islam. How did they come about? And do you want to be either? As a matter of fact, when I did the history and studied, I began to realize I don't want to be either one. Did y'all know that Muhammad went through Africa and either demanded that you bow to Islam, or he would either kill you or cut your tongue out? And did you know that the reason the country of Ethiopia is the only Christian nation left, the other one was Mali, is because the Ethiopians decided that they would fool the the Muslims, and say, we will worship Islam in public, but in private they continue to be Christians. Hello. The next book is $40 Million Slave. It talks about the athletes who are making millions of dollars today, but they are still slaves mentally. Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, the only book that I've seen that has put in perspective what black people need to do to empower themselves economically. Thus, it would empower them socially and politically. Powernomics. We'll be getting Dr. Anderson back on the show here real soon. The Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Ask. That is also by Dr. Claude Anderson. Man, go read that book. That's some fire. The Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Dr. Carter G. Woodson is named the father of African American history. But he also talks about how the black man has been deceived. And even in his own mind. There's a passage in the book that he talks about the black man is so mentally confused. His mind is so locked up due to white supremacy that you can make a front door for the black man and he'll still make his way to the back door. And even if it's not a door there, he will make a door for himself to go through the back door. Woo! That's Dr. Carter G. Woodson. The Miseducation of the Negro. The ISIS Papers. I spent a lot of time on the ISIS Papers last week. You all know that I love Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. When I read this book, this was the book that really brought it all into perspective for me mentally, because I am a mind person and I believe in subliminal messaging. I understand what sublimics are and what it does to our people and what it does to individuals. Think about it from this perspective. On Saturday mornings, companies advertise to your children while they watch their cartoons. Little Johnny comes to mother and says, hey, I want ABC frosted cereal. Little Johnny, we've never had that before. Well, I want it, and you buy it. That's called subliminal advertising. They do it through your children. Let me give you another example. Have you ever noticed that in the hot of the summer, you typically usually see commercials about cold weather, about snow, about drinking a icy cold pop, or I should say soda. In the winter, you typically see commercials about being on the beach where it's hot. Those are subliminal messaging. It affects all of us unless you decide to unplug. And Dr. Welsing began to unplug that stuff from me, whereas then now I look beyond just the message to see the real message. And even sometimes I don't get it then. That's Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She talks about white balls and why you have to knock a white ball away to win, and a dark ball you have to possess. She talks about the pool table and why it sets up a final confrontation between a white ball and a black ball, that black ball being an 8 ball. It got to me so much when I first read that whenever I play pool, I would use the 8 ball as the cue ball. The 2 books I want to talk about today in the next 12 minutes is 2, and it is by the same person. I mentioned them last week. The first book is From Babylon to Timbuktu. And prior to me reading this book, remember the phraseology, man, I'll knock you to Timbuktu? After that, I read this book, I stopped using that phrase because I began to understand that if it was not for Timbuktu, then we have no Egypt. We have no knowledge. And to show you how ignorant white people are, to show you how racist some of them are, that you know. And let me just get the article because I found this so profound. Poll says that 56% of Americans don't want kids taught Arabic numbers. Do y'all get that? Do y'all get that right? 56% of Americans don't want their children to be taught Arabic numbers. Well, what do you think the number system is? So you don't want your child to be taught math. You don't want your child to learn how to count. You don't want your child to understand algebra or trigonometry or calculus or any of those advanced mathematical persuasions that might cause him to be rich. This shows you their ignorance. It's kind of like many of them saying, hey, I don't want Obamacare, but I love the affordable health care. So, From Babylon to Timbuktu by Dr. Rudolph Windsor gives you a historical perspective about early pre-Egyptian civilization in the sub-Saharan regions. See, many people don't realize that the Egyptians migrated from sub-Sahara. There are also aspects concerning the evolution of Islam and Christianity. Hello? Do you really want to know? Have you ever thought, well, where did this Christian thing come from? Or where did this Islamic thing come from? This is a must read for biblical and religious enthusiasts. No matter what your faith is, you need to read this book. You need to read this book, From Babylon to Timbuktu. You're right, Latonya. They don't want you to be able to read the walls of Egypt. You know, there are some parts of Egypt where they have hired Egyptian women to go through the hieroglyphics and scrub the faces of those black people so that they will not look black. See, the argument I've made for people for decades is that if I'm going to paint a picture of myself, if I'm black, well, if I'm white, I'm not going to paint them black. You know, that basic common sense thought told me who the people were who built the pyramids. Simply by looking at the hieroglyphics, those people painted themselves, images of themselves, not only their color, but their nostrils, their physical traits. So I knew for a long time that those people were black, even before I began to do the research. But this book, because see, Dr. Rudolph Windsor, if I remember correctly, is an ordained minister. Go read this book, From Babylon to Timbuktu. It will boggle your mind. That is, if you ain't scared. Because see, part of the problem is most of our people are scared. Here's the other sister book. It's called The Valley of the Dry Bones. It is also written by Dr. Rudolph Windsor. In fact, you can't read From Babylon to Timbuktu without reading The Valley of the Dry Bones. Here's what I said about this book when I read it years ago. Who are the dry bones and who do they represent? Dr. Windsor attempts to answer that question, and many others. Pay particular attention to who the real Jews are. Also examine the 5 curses God put upon his chosen people in Deuteronomy and ask yourself the question, is there any other people in this world who fit this criteria other than the African? Hello? Now let me go down and break a couple of that down because we got a few minutes to go, about 6 minutes. Okay. I'm going to quickly, if I can, pull up some information because if I can, let's see if it'll pop up real fast. Dr. Rudolph Windsor talked about 5 generational curses. Now, let's see if I can pull it up. I meant to do this and it slipped my mind. I was hoping it would come up as text. There is video of him talking about this. All right, and we'll dive into that even more. I'll find them for you and get back to you. But those 5 general, if you believe in the Bible, those 5 generational curses only affect one group of people, and that's black people. Don't get mad at me. Just, if you believe in the Bible, that's what it does. Now, the other thing that I found fascinating, whether this was the first time, I had heard for decades that black people, the original Jews, were black people. I had heard that for decades. In The Valley of the Dry Bones, it was Dr. Rudolph Windsor who first published those pictures. Hello? It was him who first published those pictures of black people who looked like me, who identified themselves as Jewish. Hello? How could that be? How could the Jews that occupy Israel today come out of those black people? Or better still, how could black people come out of the Jews that occupy Israel today? I guess that's better said that way. There is no way that that could happen biologically. There is no way biologically that the Jews that occupy Israel today could have come out. Those black people could have come out of. Here's the other point, and we got to wrap this up. This book delves into, if you're Christian, I'm telling you, because I told you I studied Muslim Islam, I studied Christianity, I studied Buddhism, I studied a lot of stuff. This book breaks it all down for you. From Babylon to Timbuktu and the Valley of the Dry Bones. Those are two books. He asks you who the real Jews are. He also tells you who the dry bones are, and can those bones live, and what you need to do to live. Hello? I know this is tough for some of y'all, but this is my book list. This was my journey. Because, again, if you're going to do legitimate research, then you have to allow the research to take you where it leads you. Yeah, you might go in with preconceived notions, as I did, but I allowed my research to lead me, and it has led me on a path that many are afraid to travel. Many don't understand. But I hope you'll get on the information highway. As I wrap up, I'll tell you a quick story. You know, in Memphis, they had the exhibit, Ramesses the Great. You all remember that exhibit? In fact, many of you all probably went to that exhibit. And one thing that was fairly noticeable about Ramesses the Great, and even if you go to the pyramid today, they have a replica of that statue sitting in front of the pyramid in Memphis, which is now Bass Pro Shop. The one thing that was noticeable is the fact of his nostrils that were clearly black. In fact, the radio station that I worked for at the time, WHBQ in Memphis, which was News Talk, a white woman called the show, one of the shows, and clearly was perplexed that Ramesses the Great, and it was ironic that there it was being shown in the city of Memphis, and if you all don't know, is named after a great city in Egypt. She asked the question, I don't understand how Ramesses the Great nose looks like a black man. Hello? One other point and I'll let you go. Also in the commercial appeal that year, they published a picture of a black Jew in Israel in his military garb, because you understand that once you become of age in Israel, you must serve. It is mandatory that you serve 2 years in the military. When Israel began to boat lift the black Jews to Israel, they too were demanded to serve in the military. And there we saw a black Ethiopian in Israeli military garb with his rifle standing guard. And the question became, wait a minute, how is it that this black man is a Jew? Some of us remember that Sammy Davis Jr. identified as being Jewish. At the time, we didn't realize exactly what Sammy Davis Jr. was meaning. And the question came into the station again. Looking at the article in the paper, the picture of a black man who looked black, except he was identified as an Ethiopian Jew. White people called the station asking, how could this be? And as I leave today, you should ask that same question and seek the answer. I wish you peace, my brothers and sisters. Don't forget to join me tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the weekly sports magazine right here on joynetradio.com. You've been listening
listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joinetradio.com.